So I didn't get to spend much time already today painting like I wanted to. I didn't pass out or anything this time around. I just other things I needed to do, and that's fine. But for today, the main focus is probably going to be, you know, all right. So you see this guy. You remember him being bright orange, much like you see with his antlers here. Okay, and some other things, were other colors. I added washes, is what happened. All right. Now you'll notice here and here, and a little bit on the collar over here, that it looks, lighter colored. Well, what ended up happening is what I warned about before. If your finger, is touching those areas for too long, a little bit of sweat, a little bit of, whatever, or maybe you rub too hard for whatever reason, they will, rub off. Now, contrasts, which is what this is Nagaroth. No, not Nagaroth. This is Sheesh Purple contrast. All right, but contrasts have a tendency to do it more often than some other paints. So, it may look like a little bit of the lighting, with the rest of the model and everything, but that's actually been run. Same with over here, and there's a couple other spots on the model. Now, like I said, I added washes, and normally whenever I add a blue wash to the orange, it ends up with kind of a dark leathery brown. Well, something to be careful about is that your wash, shade, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same thing to me. You can end up, because of various weather and other conditions, where you'll be left with more pigment than liquid. Now, what your grandfather would do, and what I tend to do in these cases, is just add water. Now, don't add from the faucet. I would suggest getting a eyedropper. Okay, so just a little one. If you don't have one, they're really cheap. Okay, but use like a bottle of water that you trust that is not enriched with minerals. All right, you don't want extra stuff in your paint, but you also want your paint to be as pure as possible. Okay, and then simply just shake it after that. You can mix it up with your brush if you want to. I would suggest using the other side of the brush rather than the bristles. Also look into some brush cleaner. All right, you can clean it with water, but after a while you're probably going to want to get some brush cleaner. Let's see here. Now, with this guy on as well, just throwing it out, okay, you'll notice that darkness that I was talking about, you can see it all around the model in terms of like where his flesh and stuff is. Well, afterwards, I did take a kind of a mix of white and brown. Now, yes, I could have just easily used a lighter color of brown, a tan, gray, anything like that. I could have. But something that I just do myself is I just mix the colors. I'm used to doing that. And using things like, Walmart paints. I say Walmart, really any craft store will have them. Most of mine were bought at Walmart though. Like this bright red. I mixed it with the flesh tone back here, and that's how I got that pink in there. And like I plan on tossing a wash on both of these, make it a little bit more, realistic, but I wanted to wait for it to dry. These style paints do have a tendency to take longer to dry than, say, hobbyist paints. Be prepared for that. Okay, always something to be prepared for. But yeah, I did, brown wash on this, blue wash on the flesh. I even put a brown wash over here. So, and then again, the contrast is like a paint and a wash together. But I do plan on taking maybe another light or dark purple as appropriate to the NFL Vikings like however they do their jerseys that fans can buy. That way it's still very appropriate to what your grandfather could have possibly have worn. As you can see, there's already a number on here. I was potentially going to just paint that on, but there's already detail for it, so I can just follow the detail for that. And again, just look that sort of thing up online. Saves you time. And really personalizes things. But you'll notice I didn't go through and cover up all of the orange and all that. Some of that I want to show through. Discoloration of skin with something that's supposed to be plaguey is always a good idea to keep varying colors coming through. You don't know what they got sick with, and I'm not a doctor, but if you're dealing with something fantasy like having a bright color, dark color, kind of neutral colors all together, it's a really great idea. Now, do I plan on using more yellows than just on the popcorn? Oh yeah, yellows, greens, I'll make little bits, like there's boils and such all over the body. What am I going to do with the horns? Yeah, I'll probably use more these type of paints and come up with like a color scheme for the horns. I may even look up Kugoth Plaguefather from the Total War Warhammer 3 and see what color they used. Alright, they're not going to list the colors you see here, but like I can actually look at the picture and be like, oh, okay, that's what I can aim for. Always be prepared for that sort of thing. I know I'm saying a lot of be prepared, but it's true. You gotta learn to adapt. That's a part of being prepared. Now, I'm gonna race over here real quick. Alright, as you can see, I put on a layer or base coat, your choice of words and terms. Just a fairly dark gray to cover this, and I did it over here to this thing as well. Alright, old Brofather is actually going to sit here. That's where his feet go, and that's where his butt goes. You know, but it's a matter of what am I going to be able to see, what am I not going to be able to see. But I wanted to cover all of that, which does leave this piece back here with all the horns. However, what I'm probably going to end up doing is making all of these horns the same color as what's going to be here, because that's going to be similar, as well as what's on him as well. So I may do them all up in orange before I even attempt to change the color, just to keep it consistent. But everything's a process, everything goes step by step. Kind of reminded of that old TV show, Step by Step. Wonder how many seasons that went for. Your mother can look that one up. I'm sure she remembers it. Let's see here. Oh, and just so you know, I'm going to show you something. Okay, I'm going to use the models here. Okay, so we're going to take this all the way over here. Alright, so what you see here is you got big green base. Most of your bases are going to be black with what you own, buddy. And, you know, you're going to see things. But get an idea. Look at what you're working with. All these little guys right here need to be facing forward. So when I put them on the base over here, I need to make sure that I get them turned around. That way I can see their joyful little faces and tongues sticking out. And that way they're all moving in the same direction. Okay? Now, you notice, not glued. Now, you see this big hole up here. Now, before I printed this, this was all solid. Okay? I didn't want to waste all of the resin when I printed it, so I put a giant hole in it. That's a case by case, person by person. You got to make your own decisions. Alright. However, one of the things I had to do after I did that was called dry fitting. I had to make sure that this was going to fit with this. Okay. Now, as you can see, it kind of falls back a little bit, but you are looking at something that's got a lot of weight on the back. But whenever you look at all the detail and all that, you just make sure it fits, make sure it's going to settle, and everything's going to be good in the world. And then even this guy, he's got a dry fit on here too. All right. Got to make sure he's going to fit. That means making sure his feet fit in the foot spots, and making sure that, all together, nothing's going to fall over. And you can kind of go back and you notice his arm fits right in here, his feet fit the little spots, and some things you can't see. There are some details that now are so dark. Oh, gotta pull those guys back. Again, you be careful when you're dry fitting. Use both hands. Don't be your uncle and do this. But there's even spots down here. So if somebody looks in from above, what are they gonna see? What am I gonna paint that? Am I gonna paint the pile brown? Is it gonna look like he's sitting on a pile of poop? Or a pile of rotting flesh? I'm gonna make it look like it's a part of him? Who knows? Alright? Who knows? I haven't made the decision. It'll probably be green and brown. It'll probably look like diarrhea, to be perfectly honest. I'm not even gonna hide that. But that's something to kind of keep in mind, like getting ready to take care of the skulls. Now, there are other bits, as you can see, there's all sorts of knots and stuff all over this thing. There are other parts, like, say, this rope, for example, that fits on here. And again, it's good to dry fit and make sure everything's going to fit together appropriately. You don't want to just throw something on and then watch it, I don't know, explode whenever you barely put everything together. But remember that when you start gluing stuff together, that everything's going to fit however it's going to fit. And if you have to put something in there, either it's a little extra glue, some sort of epoxy, that's fine. That's fine. Just remember, you can go back in, cover things up with paint, make adjustments. But when you are completely done with the model, I suggest sealing it. Alright? All that is like, you can either do a brush on sealer, or you can do a spray on. Alright? It's like using a can of spray paint, but it's clear. How do you know it's going to work? Well, normally they all come on pretty shiny at first. Give them 24 to 48 hours at least, or whatever the can says, to kind of tone itself down. And you can usually find stuff that also help tone down any shininess, just in case. So it's not something that is gonna be permanent. And who knows, maybe you want your stuff to be shiny. Alright? And there ain't nothing wrong with that. Remember, the choice is yours. Okay, hopefully that sounded as corny as I wanted it to be. But you do you, alright? Double checking. I may do a video that just for dry fitting stuff, so you can see what that looks like in more detail on something that's not just like a few pieces. I'll wait for feedback from you or your mom to let me know how that goes. I'll try to get this uploaded as quickly as possible. Until next time. I don't know. Just you decide what my catchphrase is going to be. I can't wait to hear that one. Well, good night. I got to get your cousin up.